And I start singing, and that's when she stabilizes the camera. And then I hear her go, "Oh my God. Oh my God. She's good.
That's awesome.
She's good."
This is about you and your journey in music and how you got to where you are now. Originally from Texas, is that what I read?
I am, yeah. So I am from Dallas, Texas. I've lived here pretty much my whole life. It's kind of funny because I think a lot of people, when they're like, "Oh, like tell me about your music," they just automatically assume that it's country.
Oh,
But I'm like,
because
no.
you're from Texas.
Yes, they're like, "Oh, you're writing like Carrie Underwood." I'm like, no, not really. Mine's like sad, depressing, Billie Eilish like music.
Uh-huh.
Completely the opposite.
A little bit different. Whereabouts in Texas area or Dallas? I just have family there, so I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I live in actually McKinney, so it's like 45 minutes away from Dallas area. There's
Okay.
like McKinney, Frisco, Allen, Melissa. It's like, I don't know, Farmville, people say.
Okay. My family's in Plano, Texas. I don't know.
Okay, yeah,
Is
I know
that
where that is.
close to you?
It actually is. It's like 15 minutes away.
Oh wow, that's cool. Yeah, I've only been there and I went to downtown Dallas a few times, but other than that, and again, I have no concept of any like range. I remember it took like 45 minutes to get to downtown Dallas
Everything's
though.
like so spread out. I don't think people realize that when they're like, "Hey, like I would love to do a shoot with you. Like, where are you from?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm from this part." And they're like, "Oh, okay, that shouldn't be that bad." I'm like, "That's like an hour and a half away from it." Like, Fort Worth is like, I think an
Massive,
hour.
right? Fort
Yeah,
Worth, Dallas, Fort Worth is huge.
and it's like I think like an hour, hour 30 sometimes, depending on
Wow.
traffic. So I'm like, yeah, it's a little far, but yeah, I'll be there. I'll be there.
Right on. Okay, so you've been there your whole life. How'd you get into music?
So my dad's actually in a British invasion band. He plays drums.
Really?
Yes. So I grew up with like the Who, the Beatles, literally anything rock, and then he kind of started changing to like British invasion. And
Is he
I've
like
always
in a
just loved
cover band, like a British Invasion cover band, or what? Oh,
it.
okay.
It's called the Blokes. So it's called the Blokes.
Oh, I like that
So
name.
yeah,
That's a good one.
I always just like grew up around music, and it was funny how I got started in music is I watched Hannah Montana,
Hmm.
and I I don't know what in my 7-year-old brain made me think like, okay, this is my time. Like this is how I'm gonna like get famous. Like or not even famous, but this is how people are gonna know my music. And I turned to my mom, I was like, that's gonna be me. Like I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna do concerts by night.
Yeah.
And I'm like 7 years old. But I started just signing up for every talent show.
Okay.
Every talent show, any little neighborhood thing that I could get to. I just loved music. And like everyone's like, oh my God, you're gonna be famous. And for me, I didn't care about that. I just cared about the music. I was like, I just want to sing and perform. And uh I just loved music. And it's funny, my dad was like, "Oh, like I thought you were gonna be like a rock singer." And I definitely have like a little bit of grit to my voice, like from
Mhm.
that, but it's definitely more pop for sure.
So, when you were younger, I'm curious, real quick, on your dad playing music and
Yeah,
you being drummer. Did you ever go see him play? Like, would you go to his shows when you were
I
younger?
actually did, but it was funny because like he performs in bars, so I was very
Uh,
young. So I
Difficult
would
to
get
get
to
in.
yes, like 12-year-olds trying to be like, "Hey, that's my dad." They're like, "I don't know. I don't know if I should let this 12-year-old in here." But there
Right.
were like ones around the neighborhood that I would see him, or he would like film videos, or he performed at church a lot, so I'd watch him perform at church. A little bit different than the playing like he would do at bars. Obviously, it was like
Hmm.
completely opposite.
Right.
Um, but if not, he would play a little show for me before he left for his gig, so that way I would feel like I was going. So yeah,
That's cool. That's really cool. And
yeah.
for you, singing, I mean, watching Hannah Montana at 7, like, were you singing prior to that? Like, did you take piano lessons, or was it like because of that show, you're like, I can sing and I'm gonna do this as well?
Yeah, no, honestly, I think it was because of that show. Because it's funny, my mom was like putting me in sports and putting me in cheerleading or whatever, like, younger, trying to like figure out what is
Right.
she
What
like.
you're interested in. Right.
Super uncoordinated. Like that was it was so bad. Like my mom was like, I don't know what she's gonna be good at. Like, cause it was so bad. I was very clumsy. When I played soccer, I would like pick up the little dandelions, go give it to the other team, and be like, "You're going good. You're doing good." And they're like, "Gabby, that's your enemy." And I'm like, "But they're doing good. They're winning."
Right.
And they're like,
Right.
"Yeah, we should be winning. That's what's kind of happening." And like I said, I was watching that show, and I was in second grade, and they like had it cut off where second graders could try out for the talent show. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it.
Second grade and
So
up.
yes, second grade and up.
Okay, got it.
So I talked to my music teacher, Miss Whaley, which it's so crazy because you still think about these people. Like she was so significant in like helping me and making me feel confident and making me feel like I could do it. And
You were in
I
music
talked.
class, real quick. Sorry, you were in a
Yes,
music class in second grade.
yes,
Was it like
yes.
part of the? What'd you play,
It
or
was
was
part
it
of
just
the
kind of like a
curriculum.
chorus type thing?
Uh, but I will say I definitely like would go there after school, and she would just be like, "Okay, let's work on this," or like, "Let's talk about this," or "What do you want to do in class?" Like I kind of would be like, "Okay, let's like do this now. Like let's see if we can
Hmm.
work on this." So I was always spending time there. Like regardless if it was like a part of the curriculum, I loved it. Like I
Okay.
just wanted to spend as many hours as I could there.
Was it like more of a chorus, or were there people playing the instruments as well?
No, we would have like I remember fourth grade is when they like started letting us play instruments. So they got like recorders or we would
Ah,
play
okay.
bongo drums or stuff like that. But I definitely was like trying to like convince her like, okay, what if we did like piano or what if my dad came in like played his drums? And she's like, I mean, I can see. She's like, I can see if I can do that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I talked to her and I was like, hey, I really want to do this talent show. And she was like, okay, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to sing. And she had heard me like briefly.
Hmm.
But she knew I was very uncomfortable singing in front of one. I had only sung in front of her. I'd never sang in front of my family. I'd
Oh
never
wow.
sung. Yeah, I was very shy. And so she's like, are you sure? Like, this is going to be friends and family. This is going to be all your principals, all your teachers. Like, and I was like, yeah, I want to do it. And so she's like, okay, well, tryouts are this. Make sure you have your, it's so weird, CD, like, so, I mean, like, they exist, but just like her being like, bring your CD with the track and then we'll play it and then you can sing. So I had we went to this little local store and we got the CD and it was If We Were a Movie, I think, or Life of the Party, some Hannah Montana song.
Hmm.
And we brought the CD, and my mom had heard me practice, but every time she would kind of like peek because she's like, okay, I'm gonna see if I can listen. I would like see her and I would stop like immediately. I was like, no, mm-mm, mm-mm. And so she didn't hear me until the night of the performance.
Wow.
Um,
She must have been
yeah,
nervous.
she was like freaking
She's
out.
probably
There's
like,
actually, you
is
know,
she gonna come out here? Like, what's gonna
oh,
happen?
she's like, is she gonna like just bomb this? And I'm gonna have to be like a parent and be like,
You
yay,
did great.
job. Let's see if we can do something else next time. Like
Right, right.
try to hear but there's actually a video on YouTube on my old YouTube channel or something where she's filming and she is just legitimately shaking so like hard, like just
Oh wow.
and she's talking to my grandma in Spanish and just saying how she's nervous and she's like, I don't know how she's gonna do. Like I've heard her practice, but I'm so like nervous right now. And I start singing, and that's when she stabilizes the camera. And then I hear her go, oh my God, oh my God, she's good.
That's awesome.
She's good. And then I do the little song, and then I finish, and there's like an intermission because it wasn't like, I think like a 2 hour talent show, which is so
Wow.
crazy.
For elementary
Yeah,
school kids, that's a bit much.
I think it was 7 to 9.
Oh
That
man.
was I know. I think when you're a parent, you have to do so much. And I'm just like, thanks, mom, for coming to the performance. That was like 2 hours long.
Yeah. I have two kids but they are pretty good about, well, the stuff, like if one of my sons is in choir and like they're pretty, it's like an hour, they'll do like two showings and they only let certain people into one, or like parents into one and vice versa or whatever. But 2 hours, that's a serious talent show.
Little hefty.
Yeah.
um, and after I finished, Miss Whaley was like, of course, like, I'm so happy, like you did so great. And then it was funny, all the kids, they had their little like pamphlets and they all came up to me and started having me like sign it with my Sharpie.
Oh
And they
wow.
were like, yeah, and they're like, you're gonna be famous, like you're so good. And I'm like, I just want people to listen to my music. Like I don't really care if I'm famous or like I don't care about that. I just want people to be like, hey, I like your music. And that's,
Hmm.
music has just always been that for me. Like it's really been a place where I feel home and I want that for my music. So I was saying that at like 7 and a
Wow.
little bit probably less words,
Hmm.
and a little bit less like insightful, but that definitely was from the get-go like how I wanted my music to be.
I wonder if anyone has that still, the
I think
pamphlet
that would be so
signed.
crazy. That would be so cool.
That
Just
would be. It
I
just like lands back in your lap somehow.
yes, just to look at my little I don't honestly, it's probably a horrible signature. It's probably just I'm still working on my signature because I'm left-handed, so I know
Ah,
back then it was probably just like, and I'm like, heart.
right. That's funny. So you did that obviously, and your mom finds out that you're actually very good at singing, and then she like put you in voice lessons and
Yeah,
later
I
on. Okay.
started doing voice lessons. I got in the choir. We had a choir at our school in
Hmm.
elementary, so you could join when you were in 5th grade.
Hmm.
I was doing like little vocal lessons with Miss Whaley, and then I did the choir, and I auditioned for. There was a program called Oak, and it's like a choir program, and basically a certain amount of kids audition, and then you were able to do a big choir in Washington if you were selected. And
Okay.
I was selected, which I was so excited. And
Wow.
yeah, I was
And that's
really,
in fifth grade. Fifth grade, you got this
yeah, and it was
opportunity.
really cool because I was like, I was like, oh my god, I get to go to Washington, like I get to go for my singing, like wow.
Yeah, that's big.
It was really, really exciting. And I went with my grandma and my mom. And funny enough, the hotel that we were staying at, they had, my mom told me later on, there was these two little girls and they were dressed up really nice. And my mom was like, oh, like you guys look so nice. And the mom was saying that they were actually going to the White House to go hang out with Malia Obama and hang out with the children of the
Wow.
White House. Yeah. Isn't that
That's
crazy?
that's crazy. Just their friends like hanging
Yeah.
out in the same hotel as you.
Friends that they invited. I think it was Malia's either birthday or she had something coming up, and they had just been adjusting to being in the White House. This was like
Wow.
2008, 2009, I think.
Probably
Um,
when he won. Yeah, that makes sense.
so they were like trying to make them feel more comfortable, and so Michelle invited these girls that they had been friends with, and told them to come and stay and have a sleepover. And yeah,
You imagine having a sleepover at the White House? That's crazy.
I think that would just be the ultimate like playground. And just they had the mom who was these girls' daughters, to my mom,
Mhm.
told my mom that they had put up this like playhouse for them, and they were gonna do a tea party and maybe like an American Girl doll thing, like pretty much anything
Wow.
wanted at that age, they were gonna be able to do. So I was when my mom told me later on, I was like, wow, American Girl doll, like oh my god.
That's cool. That is really cool. Well, how did
Yeah.
that performance go then in DC? Where did you get to sing at?
Really, I can't. It was a like some Carnegie Hall. It was incredible. It was so beautiful, and it was kids from all over the U.S. So I got to meet people from everywhere, which was so cool. And I think there was 100 kids that were or 200. It was a pretty large amount of people.
Hmm.
Coming from a choir back home that had like 30 people, it was
Hmm.
definitely completely different. But I learned how to like kind of mold my voice and find my sound. And so that's when I kind of started like realizing, okay, there's certain ways I can sing things. There's certain ways I can pronunciate things. And it was so interesting just meeting people from all over, but it went great. I was
Mhm.
very nervous because, again, I was still trying to find my confidence as a performer. And even if it is 200 people, you're still like, oh my God, they're looking at me. And I was the
Right.
shortest person. So they put me in the front, like the very, very front, because they're like, you're so little. Like, we want to make sure everyone can see
And
you. And I
see
was
you, right.
no, it's okay. Like, I'll stand in the back. Like, Billy can cover me completely.
Yeah, I'll stand behind the tallest kid.
Yeah, I'm completely okay with that. And they're like, no, like your mom and your grandma have come to see you. And I was like, they'll understand. Like they will be like, it's okay. Like we get it. Um, so then after I came back, I started taking vocal lessons with Miss Whaley.
Mhm.
I started taking piano, literally anything and everything I could sign up for. If it was like local talent show or I pretty much did. I was like, I want to do everything I can to further my career and work on my music.
Mhm. Mhm. And from the I mean, that was in 5th grade, so you had some time to really hone your craft. So do you start like, once you get to middle school, high school, are you writing music at this point? Are you in a band? Or, like, how do you kind of continue forward?
I think I started writing music. I mean, I had written. I don't like to say I had started writing when I was younger because it was very like I like pie.
Yeah,
Pie's good. Like very,
juvenile stuff,
very
yeah.
yes. Or like
Obviously. I'm sure
yeah,
you weren't writing super deep, lyrics, or maybe you were, I don't know, in 6th grade.
yeah. But yeah, I started writing probably when I was like 12 or 13. So that was when I was in middle school. I did kind of get bullied because I really wasn't the type of kid who was like very like popular. I kind of like to just stay to myself. And I loved
Mhm.
music so much. So I was like a bookworm when it came to music. Like, okay, you guys are gonna go to do this. Okay, I'm gonna go write a song. Or like that's cool, but I'm gonna go do my music.
Mhm.
Um so I definitely started writing, and that really helped me when I was struggling. And then I started doing gigs. I started working with a couple music companies out here, and they helped me gig and
Wow.
doing gigs here and there. And every weekend, I would pretty much be gigging or doing some vocal lessons or doing some performance lessons. And I also was taking acting lessons at the time, so I was doing acting and singing, and then doing like dance performance in between.
Okay. Were you doing cover like, when you were getting these gigs, were you doing cover songs, or were you performing your own music at this point?
I was doing mainly covers at that point.
Okay.
So I recently started doing more my originals since I have my music out, and I felt
Mhm.
finally found my sound. I just was like, I'm not ready to like put my music out. I would get these songs recorded and they felt good, but I just knew that that wasn't the sound that I was ready for someone to be like, hey, this is Gabriella's sound. I was like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know about that one yet.
Okay.
So I was
So when
doing the
did you
cover.
start doing that, though? Like, were you in high school at this point when you're
Um,
actually going to the studio and writing and recording
yeah,
songs?
so
Oh,
I
okay.
was 13, 14 around when I started doing.
Wow. Okay.
So
Do
there's
you
a
have those recordings somewhere?
probably somewhere very deep, deep, deep in like my voice memos or like somewhere
Okay.
I've saved them like privately. But there is a song that I have, but it's not like the worst song. It's called Magician, and I still like. I think those songs are always gonna like hold a place in your heart where you're like, okay, like this is something that was special at the time. Maybe not. Don't want the world to ever hear it, but
Mhm.
it's still meaningful to me.
Okay. That's the only one that you'd keep around maybe, but you wouldn't show to anyone?
Oh my gosh, I have one song that I literally would die if it leaked. I don't know how it would, but it's called what is it called? I'm Not Your Princess. I think there's a video of me performing it on YouTube somewhere. Now everyone's like looking it up, like
Yeah, I was
search.
gonna say, I know what I'm doing after this interview is
Oh
over.
yeah, I know. Like I ruined my life by saying it, but yeah, it's basically I can rap, not very good, but I can get like I can get it.
Get the
Uh,
cadence down.
Yeah. And so when you tell sometimes people that you're working with, like, hey, I can do this, they decide, like, oh, that's the lane we're going to push her in.
Mhm.
They wanted me to be a rapper, and they changed my name to Lucille Stella, which is my middle name. And I hated it. During the time that they were doing this, I was like, are you guys kidding me? No, I'm not going to be a rapper. Like, this is awful. So this whole
It
song
was
is like,
definitely like a niche lane to go, I guess.
I was like, guys,
13-year-old girl rapper.
I steal Stella, like, no. Oh my God. And the lyrics were like, which is funny because I ended up writing a song called Baby Girl, which was kind of like Seven Rings type of vibe. So still kind
Hmm.
of like rappy, but not really. Basically, same premise, like, I'm not your princess, like I can take care of myself. And then I write Baby Girl that's like empowering the women and same concept. So that's
Right.
what I thought was funny. But yeah, definitely the lyrics are I was co-writing with someone and I basically got like a small record deal with this person, and they kind of were pushing me towards, like I said, being a rapper. So when I was co-writing with them, they were like, "Oh, here's this line." I'm like, "No, this is so bad." Like, no.
That's funny. So then that just never ended up getting
No,
out after the
no.
label, even
It
with this person. Did you kind of just part ways with them?
kind of parted ways. It
Okay.
didn't work out. It was a cool experience because I think that was the first original time that I had like worked with someone co-writing.
Hmm.
And it's really different when you're, of course, writing by yourself and working on your lyrics, and then co-writing with someone who's like, "Hey, I have this idea." I love both,
Hmm.
but I personally write all my songs by myself. There are times where it's like, "Hey, I have this melody with the like who I'm working with, the producer," and they're like, "Hey, I have this melody, try it." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." And then I use that for my lyrics.
Got
But
it.
yeah, that co-writing experience was a little difficult because like I said, he was just like, "Here's a line." And I'm like, "Oh, this is cringy."
Yeah, right.
Oh, please.
Wow. Well, but you said you talked about Baby Girl, and that was the first song that you've released, wasn't it?
It was. And it was very exciting because I had just turned 21, and my whole idea was I want my first song to be fun. And I also wanted it to be about, I'm all about empowering women. And I think it's important, especially in this industry,
Hmm.
there being such a small percentage of us and also songwriters as well. It's so important to support each other and be there for each other. And that's how I kind of wrote this song. And I had heard Seven Rings, and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I want to kind of do like a vibe like that. And so
Hmm.
Baby Girl was born. Literally.
And like, what was it like releasing a song for the first time? I mean, putting it out on like DSPs, and then you have the song, and now you're Gabriella Stella, and like, what was that like?
It was very scary. I think, releasing your first song, it's kind of, you feel very vulnerable. You almost feel
Hmm.
like you're naked in a weird way. Like you're like exposing your journal, like everything is out on the table, and you're just like, here, have me. Tell me if you hate me or not. And you're just like waiting, just like, okay. But I released it, like I said, on my 21st birthday because I knew that that would help me like have fun. I was with my friends. So they were excited. They were playing it like everywhere. They had like a little speaker and like walking around at bars, like, this is our
Oh,
friend.
that's funny.
This is our 21st.
That's cool.
So it definitely was an experience that it was a happy one because I got to be with my friends and family and like experience that release with them. So that was definitely awesome for sure.
Well, you're at a bar and you're playing your song. I noticed that it came out in 2020, so I'm assuming they came out before March.
Yes. So it was crazy. I mean, obviously, releasing music in a pandemic has completely changed the game in just general.
Hmm.
I've released Paranoid, I've released Dirty Laundry, I've released Bad Love, all three in a pandemic. Um, Baby Girl was the beginning almost of the pandemic. Everything shut down in Texas that March. So my
Right.
birthday was February 6th.
Oh,
So
happy birthday.
thank you. Um, but I remember it's not like it wasn't existing.
Hmm.
Obviously I'd seen articles, I'd seen a couple people, and it definitely was in like my thoughts, like, oh my God, that is like really scary. Like, but it happened so quickly, like literally, like I said, in that March, everything shut down. And I
Hmm.
had just been filming the Bad Love music video. So we had started that Friday, that Monday, I can't remember exactly what date, but that Monday, like everything shut down. Texas closed bars, Texas closed
Yeah.
schools, like everything.
Did you finish the video? I'm just
No,
curious.
we ended up
Oh,
taking a
wow.
break until like June or July of that year.
Okay. Was that
So
hard to pick up? Like, or
it
did
was
you just start
weird.
from scratch?
It was weird, but we ended up making it work because there was two different scenes that I wanted anyway.
Hmm.
One was a little bit darker with the flashing lights and the strobes, and then one was like a little bit more free in a field running around. It still was weird, of course, because everyone wore masks when we were not filming and we were very careful. Um, but it still was so weird. It was like we were almost like scared to see each other, like, and that's when, it's like, oh, hey, oh, hey,
Right,
how are you?
right.
You're just like terrified for someone to like come up to you.
Breathe on you
And
or
there was,
whatever.
yes, and there were scenes where, the person in the video had to kind of be close to me, and I was just, I'm immune compromised. So I was like, hey,
Oh,
I'm really hoping like you've been safe. And it's like, yeah, honestly, I've been terrified. My girlfriend's immune compromised, so we've been really careful.
that's good.
And luckily, no one got sick. Everyone was careful. But yeah, it's completely different releasing music in a pandemic versus obviously before.
Right, 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 right. Excuse me. So yes, you have a few songs out then. What, four, about four?
Four.
The most recent one's Paranoid. Tell me about that song.
So Paranoid is definitely different for me. During the pandemic, I think you're able to slow down and kind of focus more on these like releases, which is kind of cool because I think I found a lot of like underground artists that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like there's so many like Sadie Jean. I don't know if you've heard about her.
Mm-mm.
Uh, she did a song and it kind of went viral on TikTok, and you're just finding these like underground artists, which I love. These independent artists, and
Yeah, TikTok has really been done so much for independent artists and people that have never really released much music. It just takes
mhm.
one video or one soundbite that just goes and
Oh no,
skyrockets you.
it's crazy because I think it has changed the music industry in such an amazing way. Because I
Mhm.
think it gives everyone a free chance to make it happen for themselves. And
It
I think
does.
growing up, when I was doing, EPKs, which no one really does anymore, you do EPKs and get this little bio and flip it and CD and send it all these record
Hmm.
labels. Now it's like, hey, I'm gonna put a song on TikTok, see if people like it, and then it's like, oh, I'm number 3 on Spotify right now. It's
Right.
like that's so amazing.
Because it's a
Um,
focus group of people like right at your fingertips, right? And
wow.
and essentially no one, which is funny. I heard somebody talking about this where you basically the followers that you have on TikTok are main like more so like clout because
Yeah.
9 out of 10 people aren't even looking at their like following tablet. They're just looking at the stuff on the For You page. So anybody has an opportunity, right? So if your thing, your song lands on the For You page, and then enough people are liking it and interact and engaging with it, then it just goes up and up and up and up and up in people's in the algorithm, and you don't have to have any followers, and if just
Yeah.
you just have to have good content.
No, and it's so true because honestly, thinking about it, I'm like, wow, I actually really don't look at the following people. I mean, sometimes I do
No,
get following, but most of the time I'm on my For You page because it's like cute pictures of dogs or like new
whatever,
singer.
yeah, whatever you're interested in, right? They kind of curate their own your own little playlist for you of people maybe you follow or you don't follow.
Exactly. And so, like I said, I was finding all these underground artists, and there was a couple artists that were doing like, there's this new era which I really love. Like punk pop has become so prevalent in the music industry.
Yeah, that's what
And
I listened to growing up as a kid, which is funny to see it kind of like
yes,
coming back.
and I mean, it was funny. It was never really my thing, but I loved like Avril Lavigne. I think her writing, her style. I always looked up to her, and it was
Uh-huh.
funny. People were like, "Oh, like who do you listen to?" I would be like Sarah Bareilles, Ingrid Michaelson, and Avril Lavigne, and they're like, "Okay, that's definitely an array."
Hmm.
Um, and so I started listening to MGK's album, which I loved. I
Hmm.
started listening to Nessa Barrett, Jaden, anything with Travis Barker. He's incredible.
Yeah, he's
And
really pulled those. I mean, yeah, I mean, he's
yeah,
amazing, obviously, but he like ignited that whole pop punk scene just by
he's just
grabbing
igniting
those
that
people.
fire where it's like I mean, MGK released a song recently with Willow called Emo
Hmm.
Girl or
Emo
that.
girl, yeah.
And oh my God, it's so good. It's so catchy. And they just have found that sound for him. Because I mean, he was a rapper, which is
He
so
was a
crazy.
rapper, yeah. It's
Completely different
it
lane.
blows my mind. My family's from Cleveland. He's from Cleveland, and we went
Yeah.
to a football game. This is years ago. And he played the halftime show, and like no one cared. No one was there. I mean, like everyone's leaving, getting drinks or doing whatever when he's playing. And I knew who he was. I wasn't even like a real fan of his. I just knew who he was. My uncle's like, "Oh, do you know Machine Gun Kelly?" I said, "I know who he is. Like I know that what style and genre he does, but I'm not like a fan." And then he does this one pop record or pop punk record, and he just like skyrockets. And that's what he should have been doing from the beginning. But
Oh, oh, that's like I think of him on like Catfish, which I love that episode. I think he was so funny on that episode.
oh,
But yeah,
he was on Catfish, wasn't he? I
that's how
love that show. That show's so good.
so good. That's how I discovered him in the first place. Is he was on that show. I had never heard of him honestly, and then he was on that show, and I started looking into his music, and I've kind of like followed his career since then.
Hmm. But that was
And
when he was still a rapper when he was
yes,
on that
he was
show.
still rapping because I think he wore his grill in that episode,
Probably.
uh, which is so crazy to think about how he's completely 180'd it. So, like I said, I was listening to this type of music, and I had reached out to a producer, and I was like, I really want to do a punk pop song, more on the pop side because it obviously has to still fit my narrative and the sound that I'm kind of looking for.
Hmm.
But I'm like, I want to write it about like mental health, and he was like, I think that would be really sick. And so he sent me this one track. It was a little bit too punk, which is so funny. Like it's just I'm like it's a little too punk for the pop princess, and he's like, oh sorry, like I just got so
Hmm.
excited. I was like, you're fine. He sent it back, and I was like, okay, I think this is perfect. So I started writing to it, and at the time, I mean, I struggle with anxiety, and so I was kind of like dealing with that, and so I was thinking about things that people have said like when I'm anxious, and so, you're paranoid, you're looking over your shoulder, like, why are you, like, why, like, thinking about when you're a little kid, when you're, like, looking under the bed, like, oh my God, is there a monster?
Right.
Like, that type of thing. So I just kind of really dove deep into that, and then Paranoid was born.
Very cool. Very cool. I like the song a lot. And like I said, I've heard listened to the four that you have out and they're awesome. And you're playing a show I saw coming up as well, right? In
Yes, I have
Dallas?
a show tonight.
Oh, it's tonight.
Yes, I'm so excited. It's a thing called So Far Sounds.
Hmm.
It's these little intimate gigs that are in like Dallas, Nashville, Los Angeles, uh, New York, like anywhere. And basically, you get this little link. You can buy tickets, and they'll send you the address like 36 hours before.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and you get to bring chairs, you get to bring your own alcohol, little snacks. Like it's very intimate, and people really pay attention. It's
Hmm.
really one of my favorite gigs that I get to perform because like I said, it's very intimate. Everyone seems to enjoy the music and just let themselves go, and
Hmm.
it's just such a great environment. So I love these type of gigs. They're my favorite.
Do you know in advance where you're going to be or just, and the
I do.
fans just don't
They
know?
tell the artists. They tell they're
Okay.
like,
I was
hey,
going to say,
you're gonna perform behind a dumpster like on this street. No, but yeah,
yeah. Well, especially because we were talking earlier about how, you could go downtown and it takes you an hour. So it's
no,
like,
yeah,
you
no.
got to really
I'm
prepare.
so glad this is actually like I think 10 to 15 minutes away from me. So I've never really had to get close like this to me. It's usually always in Dallas, like you said, 45
Hmm.
minutes to an hour away, and I'm like finishing my makeup in the car, like putting on my lashes. I'm like, okay, I thought I had enough time. Definitely
Right.
don't. Uh, So, but yeah, I'm really excited. It's so fun to have music out and people enjoying it. So I really appreciate you saying that you like my music.
Of course. Yeah. I think you're doing awesome. And I appreciate you doing this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. You have a great day.
I
And
have one more question before you bail, if that's cool.
I'm
Uh,
just out.
I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I think my main advice would be don't let the no's affect you as much as I let it affect me. Because it takes one yes. It takes one yes for someone to be like, you know what, I'll give you a chance. Because I think it does get discouraging when you keep getting no's. You know, I've tried out for American Idol multiple times, I've tried out for The Voice. And, you know, it's hard when someone's like, no, like, and it could be simple to your looks or the sound or the vibes that you're just giving off. And I
Mhm.
think it is hard to not take it personally. And so my mom has come up with this phrase like it takes one yes. And so it's always been in my head like it takes one yes. And I think about like, you know, last year I was featured in Rolling Stone India, which was so exciting to me and literally like was incredible for emerging artists. And I thought about like, okay, what if I hadn't like taken that chance of like, hey, here's my music, or
Mhm.
hey, here's this. You know, I think you just have to get out of your head, and it does still learning. There's still, of course, there's times where I'm like, oh my God, I wanted that so bad. Da, da, da. And then I get an email and it's like, hey, you want to do this interview? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So you have to just not be hard on yourself and realize, you know, everything happens for a reason and that everyone's journey looks a little bit different.